Welcome to another episode of What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? Thank you so much for being with us. I so appreciate my loyal viewers. I know you guys. Bye. And I hope that there's some new people out there who want to meet or know Teri Fink, who is my guest today. Hey, Teri.
Hey, Karen. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, I'm just delighted that you're here. It's so funny. Terry and I met each other through a mutual friend that neither of us have actually ever met. You know, It's- we both met her online, and then she brought us together online. So life is really different. COVID changed everything. It
Yep,
changed everything.
sure
So
did.
Terry is a celebrated, award-winning literary writer. And she's the author of three novels. The first one is Invisible by Day. I love the titles of your books. Invisible by Day. The second one is Clovis Dig. And the new one that she's going to spend most of her time talking to us about is Restless Lake, which, although we're pre-recording, this is shown, it'll actually be 2 days from her publication day, which is going to be so exciting. Publication days are just like, they're the best.
Yes, yes, they are.
So show us the beautiful cover of your new book.
Well, all I really have right now is the beautiful image that my cover
Oh,
designer, can you see
oh,
that?
look at that.
Yeah. And
That is gorgeous.
that is Lake Chelan, and the snow-covered peaks are the Cascade Mountains in the Pacific Northwest.
That is beautiful. Yes.
And that's
Um,
Greg Simonson out of Seattle is my cover designer. He's awesome.
you did a great job. That was just gorgeous. So tell us a little bit about the premise of the book first.
Well, the Restless Lake takes place in a remote community at the head of Lake Chelan. It's accessible only by boat or plane, and it's called Stehekin. And the main characters are Olivia, who is a tech industry executive who is now transplanted to work at the Stehekin Wilderness Ranch. And the other
Mm,
main character is Luka Novak, who is an Olympic gold medal winner, who is also transplanted now to Stehekin. And the question is, why? Why are these two people who were so successful in the real world living and working at a wilderness ranch?
yeah. And why is that? We have to read it to find out.
That's right. That's right.
And what is the significance of the title?
Well, it's sort of symbolic of the inner world of both of these characters. They are a bit damaged from their past, and but it's also literally this Lake Chelan is a 55-mile long lake, and it's known for being flat as glass 1 minute and tumultuous like the ocean the next minute. And
Mm,
so it's both internal and external.
oh, I like that. That is great. The symbolism. That's really good. So you have two protagonists. Tell us what you really like about them, and then tell us if there's anything that annoyed you about them, or, because sometimes characters take us places that we didn't intend, and they have characteristics that we hadn't planned. So tell us first about what you really liked about them, and then if there was anything quirky that happened while you were writing.
Okay. I like Olivia because she's such an independent woman. In all three of my novels, the female protagonist is a very independent woman, and I think that's important this day and age. And she is self-sufficient, but she's gone through a bad thing, and she's resilient. Now, what surprised me about her is how suspicious she was. She sort of, when she met Luca, who she hired to be the kayak instructor at the Wilderness Ranch, um, she was very suspicious about, she was sort of expecting this toxic male masculinity of an Eastern European athlete because he's from Croatia. And so she's at first sort of surprised that he's as nice as he seems to be, but she never really trusts him. So that sort of surprised me about her. And Luca he is a war survivor, and he's
Mm,
damaged by incidents in the war. So they both come with a little damage to this sort of healing wilderness environment, which is really a job for both of them. I mean, Olivia is the HR director of the ranch, and then he's the kayak instructor and also an electrician for the ranch, which is, as Olivia says in the book, you should be on a Cheerios box, not up here taking families out on kayaking trips. So why?
yeah, yeah. Yes, he's this amazing, but he has a reason. He has a reason for being there. Yeah. So is it a romance?
It's not a romance. It's, I mean, it's not a romance in the formula of a romance. It's a story that involves a man and a woman um, who may or may not need each other, and they don't know.
So it's not a romance at all in the sense of a genre
No,
of
no,
romance.
no.
Yeah.
I think it might fit a little into women's fiction, even though I've had some pretty good reactions from men because of the Luca. Uh,
Luca. Yeah. Cool. It's good when our books attract all kinds of readers, right? Just all,
Absolutely.
yeah. So you live, I've been blessed to visit your part of the world more than once. You live in an extraordinary, beautiful part of the world. And tell us so clearly it's the setting for this book. Tell us how the lake affects your writing and how, well, you were going to show us, right?
Yeah, I'll show you. This is the view. I'm gonna scoot over to my window here. This is the view. You can see it out my window of my little office that I'm in right now. That's my little corner of Lake Chelan out there. It's about 20 feet away from the house, and how we ended up here, I'm still not quite sure. A lot of luck. But we've only lived here for 4 or 5 years. But I will tell you, the lake, did influence my book, of course, but the way it did, we have to go back to Invisible by Day. So Invisible by Day was my first novel, and it's set in Scotland and England during World War I and the pre-World War I years. And the reason it is because when I was a young woman, I loved reading, the Wuthering Heights, the suspense mysteries, Hibbert, all those authors. And so when I thought I'm going to sit down and write a novel, I thought that's what I would write. And then I didn't get too far into it till I realized I didn't know what year it was. I didn't know what the technology was. I didn't know what they wore, what they ate, where they were. And luckily I was a librarian at the time. So I had all the research in those pre-internet days at my fingertips. But what I learned from that was what they tell you, if I would have been listening to the writing gurus, write about what you know. It's a
Yeah.
little easier than having to fill in every little detail of what you don't know. So then my second novel, The Clovis Dig, is the story, a novel based on an actual archaeological dig that took place in the town I lived in most of my life, which is just 50 miles south of here. It's Wenatchee, Washington. And there was a real dig. I toured the dig. I collected all the clippings, again, before internet days. And there was tension between two archaeologists on the dig, one local from Washington State University, one from Chicago. And all I had to do was throw in a dead body and I had a novel. But the point is, it takes place in an orchard, and I actually had orchardists contact me after the book came out, and they said, You got it right. How did you do that? And it was because I grew up literally surrounded by orchards. I mean, in the town where I lived, Wenatchee, when I was growing up, that's what us kids did in the summertime. We picked cherries. We sorted cherries at the warehouse. We were surrounded by the orchards. And so I knew that. And so for this book, and also I should say Clovis Stick also started to move up a little bit into Lake Chelan area at the end. And so for
Mhm.
this third book, I decided that I wanted it to be the setting to be at the lake, and especially at Stehekin, which is remote and not a lot of people get to go there. So now I'm taking my readers there.
Yeah, that is cool. That is excellent. That sounds very, very interesting.
Thank you.
So, um, so besides enjoying this and enjoying the setting and everything that you've put in the book, these interesting and complex characters, is there any theme in there or a message in there or something you want your readers to learn or experience?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a book about loss and the bad things that can happen to people, and how there's always hope and a road to healing.
Mm, yep, hope and a road to healing.
Mhm.
Yes, indeed. And that hopefully inspires people, who need that hope and that road
I hope
to
so.
healing. I write a lot. All my books are the protagonists are damaged and struggling in life and struggling and trying to find their way and yeah, and having some hope. And it's so funny. People sometimes ask me, they say, "Well, then what happened after the book ended?" And I said, "Well, what do you think happened?" You know,
You
I'm
know,
hoping.
you know what's interesting about that, without giving too much away, I would get a lot of that same question. What happened after the book ended? And in this one, I really tried to wrap it up so people felt like they were thoroughly immersed in what happened. But even so, I had early readers who helped me with this book. They read and give me advice. Kelly is one of those. And one of them, there was a character that she didn't want to go away because she didn't thought he didn't deserve it. And I had to tell her, don't worry, he's okay. He got a job in San Francisco and he's doing very well. You know, I had to fill it in for her.
True, because our characters are living, breathing people, and
Yes.
our readers get all caught up in knowing them and caring about them. And yeah, I,
And
I
I'm
always feel a satisfying ending, but also wondering how they fared, afterwards. When I know I've read a good book when I feel that way.
Me
I feel
too.
like the author did a good job of bringing me to a satisfying conclusion.
Yep.
And I care about these characters so much that I want to know, like, okay, but then what happened?
Right, exactly, exactly. And I'm grateful that the readers care enough to want to know.
Yes. So this is what are you reading? What are you writing? So are there some books in your life that, you're a literary writer, not a genre writer. Are there some books that had a real impact on you and on your either your life or on how you choose to write?
Sure. I mean, so many over the years, I was thinking about this. You could go back to Gone with the Wind, I mean, a classic, that saga of war and a romance and all that. I read, of course, recently, A Gentleman from Moscow, Amor Tolls, that
Yeah.
particular book, and I've read all three of his books, and they're all great. But that book, I think, was just as about as satisfying as a book can be, but it also taught me, it doesn't start out fast. Sometimes I
Mhm.
think we get caught up in car chase movies where we want action all the time. And I do try to make my books page turners. I've been
Mhm.
told that this book is a page turner, but just like Gentleman in Moscow, sometimes you can ease
A
into it.
slower burn.
Exactly. And then, of course,
Yeah.
if you've read Gentleman in Moscow at the end, it gets the fast burn. But that was a great one. Also, Anthony Doerr's All the Light We Cannot See, of course, is wonderful. But even his Crazy Cuckoo Land, and I
I
have
don't
to
know that
say,
one.
oh yeah, it's a big book. And I listened to it, and I'm glad I did. It was a 15-hour audiobook. And it
Wow.
had 7 storylines that ran from ancient Greece to science fiction. And yet this author pulls them all together at the end. I mean, it was astounding. But I'm glad I listened to it for 2 reasons. I might have dropped off if I was reading it or skimmed. It's like, oh no, we're going off on a tangent. Don't go there. I want to stay with this character. But by listening to it, I did other things. When I was done with the book, I was like, wow, that was a great book. And then I turned to my husband and I said, oh my God, the house is clean. How did that happen? That never happens all at once. So I had tried to keep moving while I was listening to the book, and I guess I cleaned the house.
Clean the whole house. Sounds, sounds very good. Well, I want to thank you so much, Terry, for joining us. I know that our listeners and viewers, some people just listen, some people watch and listen, have enjoyed it. How can they find you? How can they be in touch? How can they find your books?
Well, the easiest place is my website, which is easy. It's www.terryfink.com. And that has links to, you can buy the books at any online store, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, any of them. And then on my website, you can also sign up. I just started a Substack, so I'm a Substack newsletter novice, and it's called Notes from the Lake. And so I hope to share some of what it's like to live on a lake and play and work around a lake, as well as share news about my books.
Excellent. Well, I hope that you will all follow Terry, get in touch with her, purchase her books, purchase her new one that just came out 2 days from now. It's just coming out when you're seeing this. So I hope you'll go look for it. And then when you're in touch with her, tell her that you met her on What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? See you guys next week. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.